Hello, this is Dr. Tall Paul Simon, psychiatrist. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit today about cutting and self-harm behaviors, how to understand them and how to address them. First of all, I want to say, if you don't know already, I am a psychiatrist. I'm a physician, licensed and board certified in the practice of psychiatry. I did my residency at Washington University and finished that in 2009, and I've been in private practice since then. So I've dealt with a lot of self-harm issues, suicidality, and other forms of self-harm. So the most common type of self-harm is cutting. Okay, so you've probably heard about that before, and it's not necessarily a suicidal behavior. It can be associated with suicidal thoughts and higher risk for suicide for sure, but in itself is not always associated with it. So sometimes people confuse cutting superficially or cutting behavior or self-harm behavior with suicidality. And while it's a cause for alarm and concern, it is not always something that somebody needs to be hospitalized for. Oftentimes, if it's the first time that it happens, somebody should probably go to the emergency room in the hospital and maybe initiate treatment. It's sometimes the first thing that family will find out that shows how much the person is suffering. Most commonly, I see it in young people, primarily teenage girls, but also boys as well, and adults sometimes. Now, self-harm in the form of cutting, let's start with that, usually is with something sharp or with your nails or something that basically causes pain. Now, the idea is not necessarily to inflict harm per se, but it is to cause pain or some strong emotional response, such as the sight of blood that can invoke fear and a strong emotional reaction. So the people that I talk to who have done that, they'll try it to see if it helps, first of all. And some people continue to do it because they find it does help, in the way that stubbing your toe and the pain that's associated with that will distract you from anything else that you're worrying about or dealing with at that moment. So when there's so much pain going on when you stub your toe, it's overwhelming. It just overwhelms your entire sensory system, and you hop up and down and scream and curse, and I swear a bit and stuff. And I drop whatever I'm holding, perhaps, and everything else that I'm dealing with at that moment goes out the window. So the self-harm is a form of escape, okay? Escaping one's emotions or problems because the pain or the stimulus from that just overwhelms your entire system. So it's obviously not a healthy coping mechanism. We want to work on finding healthier escapes, but a lot of young people feel like they can't escape. Perhaps their family situation is really intense or intrusive. They don't have their own personal or emotional space, um, and they are trying to find some way to escape in their mind. Okay, so self-harm is a form of escape. Now, there are other forms of self-harm, such as just self-destruction, drinking, drugging, running around, doing risky stuff. Now, that form of self-harm in the broader sense of the term can be associated with depression and suicidality, in the form of like reckless risk-taking. But other people can have risk-taking and recklessness and dangerous behavior when they're manic. So you can be depressed and have reckless, dangerous, self-destructive behavior, or manic, which is kind of the opposite, really. So self-destruction and dangerous behavior, you really have to look at the context, whether the person's depressed or manic, or something else is going on. Maybe there's been trauma or something like that. Other forms of self-harm, pinching, plucking, usually they're of some form of pain is being induced there. So now most people do grow out of it, okay, just with time and maturity. And like I said, finding other ways to deal with their emotional stress and this urge to escape. So when I meet somebody who struggles with that, I keep an eye on it and make sure it's not really bad, as far as, needing stitches, for instance, or representing suicidal intent. Because if somebody is performing one form of self harm, they're more likely to perform another self harm behavior, including suicide and things. So it is a red flag for somebody who's suffering and definitely needs to be addressed. So if you have met somebody or one of your loved ones, you found out that they are self harming, try to help as best you can. Um, if it's the first time, maybe they should go to the emergency room and get checked out, being evaluated. Maybe call 988, the National Suicide Hotline, and get an evaluation to make sure that it's not a suicidal thing. Um, but definitely a red flag that somebody's suffering and something that should not be ignored. So I hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe to the channel to encourage me to make more videos that might help more people. Okay? You all take care and have a good one.